Hey everybody, welcome to Teal Tinted Glasses, episode number 52. One day I'm just going to stop putting numbers and just be like, hey bitches, we're here, what's up? With me tonight, after a long hiatus of just us kind of being gone, Mr. Hockey Jerk. Mr. Hockey Jerk, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. It still might be August, but we're in that last little run through the summer, and then eventually hockey is going to be back, and we'll have something more interesting to talk about.
I feel like training camps are just around the corner. I mean, so there's that.
Right, yeah, and especially too with I think the Sharks' bottom six. I mean, it could be, a totally different unit than what we saw, last year in the playoffs. I mean, I know there's guys, not a lot of guys departed, but, you never know. Young guys come in, make a challenge. All of a sudden, it's anybody's guess as to how it shakes out.
Yeah, definitely. So hello to everyone in the chat who decided to join us on this lovely August evening. You did a show last week. Because we were desperately after all the talking,
mercilessly, yes.
after all the talking about how we were just gonna kick ass and take names all summer. It just never happened this year. I don't know, and it's weird because we were just talking off air about like where the hell did summer go? Because I feel like when we sat. We sat down last. I mean, we had done I think 3 shows in 4 days or something stupid like that. So we needed a little bit of a break. And then, and it was nice. I got to, unplug, get plugged back in, reboot. But basically what happened was we had a show tentatively planned, and then my vacation kind of screwed it up. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened. It's crazy.
See, now this is key here for all of you who say that Kevin is the star of the show and we are all Kevin and this, that, and the other. Kevin took a vacation this summer and Ian took a vacation this summer. You know who didn't?
True.
Mr. Hockey Jerk is here all summer for the people. No, but more than anything, I'm just glad that you're back now, and I'm sure we'll get Kevin back on the next show. But as much fun as it was doing the solo cast, it's tough. Like, there were so many times where, there were a few times where I was like, I had to sneeze, or, I was really tired and wanted to yawn, and I'm like, okay, I can't let there be too much dead air. So I'm glad we got we got the band back together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Kevin's playing some championship hockey tonight, which is why he's not on. But yeah, I guess so there's that. And then yeah, I went away for a little bit, and then I had just get killed by work. And now it's just like I can't even believe summer's gone. Like, I feel bad because we sucked. Like we just did not. For all our talk of summer awesomeness, we just didn't hold up our end of the bargain. And for that, I apologize. I mean, a lot of it was just again, just circumstances, some of which were beyond our control, some of which was just yeah, we can take a little bit of time off. And then when we finally tried to get things going again, it was just, this came up, that came up. It was one of those things. So we definitely apologize for being gone. And we do vow, and you can look into my robotic hockey face, and I'll tell you that we will be making an effort to kind of be weekly from here on, getting back into the season and getting going. So tonight, we have some stuff happen, and Vince brings up a really good point. Not a damn thing happened, and that's kind of true too. Where it was I think when we were going to do a show, I think the Chris Tierney thing finally went down, and really, for Sharks hockey, that was it. And even in just hockey in general, it really wasn't an eventful summer. We joked about the August 15th signing, and there really wasn't anyone super, super sexy there, in my opinion. It was just such a ho-hum summer after, it got off to an interesting start. So I don't know. I'm kind of just rambling here. So let's kind of circle that back here, and I guess we can talk about the Sharks. I brought up the Chris Tierney, re-signing. So, what did the Sharks do? nothing. After Tierney, I mean, it was pretty much nothing, which what did you think of the Tierney deal? I know it's like forever ago now, and it's like beating like the oldest news, basically dusting off the newspaper from July. But what was your thoughts on the Tierney contract?
Too much. Now that's not to say that Chris Tierney is not an effective or a useful player. He definitely is. I mean, his penalty kill stats will back me up there 100%. But I mean, this is, it's your third line center. And if you're getting John Tavares, which we know the Sharks didn't, but if you're getting John Tavares, he's your fourth line center. And, there's obviously with any player the Sharks have, there's no guarantee that they'll live up to their contract. But at least with some of the other big dollar guys we have, there's less likely that they'll drop off. And I feel like Chris Tierney, he very easily could prove me wrong and do even better than he did this past year, but he could also go back to, where he was. And I feel like, for Chris Tierney to have a good year, I think his line mates need to have good years. And, whether it's LeBanc or Meyer or Donskoy or, whomever, it's going to be on them to, kind of help carry Tierney along. I mean, for all that's said about Tierney, needing good line mates to, do well. I mean, it's
just not anchors.
Right. And it's, we saw where, how many years was he with, like you said, anchors, and he was okay. And then he finally gets good line mates and, he finally has a good season, but, he's talked about as if he's the kind of guy who can make his line mates better. And we just haven't seen that. And so I think a huge key for Chris Tierney to be worth that contract is if his line mates can do really well. Because if the whole line is struggling, then it's going to hurt, especially when, as we've known for years now, I mean, it's depth that gets you further in the playoffs.
For sure. I mean, my take on it was, when you looked at some of the other contracts that got handed out to players of that ilk, a lot of comparable players got paid this summer. A lot of players got paid this summer, just a lot of stupid money thrown around. When money was, what little money was thrown around was a lot. And I thought that a lot of, marginal players got a lot of money this year. And, so when you look at that, well, I agree too much. But when you kind of, if you don't put it in a vacuum, I mean, he pretty much got paid to a lot of the same extent that a lot of comparable players got. And I think that's the, with the salary cap always going up, and it's always hard because you look at some of these players and you're like, that player got this. And it's just like, it's like I always joke, 9's the new 6. Mm-hmm. And I just, is 3 the new 1.5, I guess. I mean, compared to like if this was in a vacuum and Chris Tierney got all this money without really looking at, what some other comparable players, yeah, I think it's too much. It's too much by almost $1 million. At the very least, almost $1 million too much. But when you look at what other comparable players got, I don't think Doug Wilson did terrible here. Which brings us to, I think, the question that we kind of been hit all summer with, and that was the Sharks cap space a mirage? Like, was it ever really there? And I think, yeah, of course it was. I think that if you sign John Tavares, and I know we didn't, I don't want to, beat the Tavares thing, because I feel like we already did that on previous shows, and, we covered that extensively to death, but I still think it's an important factor, though, because I think if you do sign John Tavares, then are you not just trading Chris Tierney at this point? Like, if you have John Tavares, Logan Couture, and Joe Thornton down the middle, where, like, do you need a Chris Tierney, or do you rather just, like, trade him for pennies on the dollar probably, and then you bring up, basically a guy who's going to play on the fourth line this year with Chris Tierney playing in the 3C hole, a Dylan Gambrell, a Suomela, something along those lines. I don't know. I think that, had the Tavares thing happened, I think that the rest of the Sharks summer probably goes a little differently.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I like that you mentioned, some of the other Sharks prospects, Shark Center prospects specifically that they have. I mean, we've been having this conversation for 2 years now, where the debate is Chris Tierney, keep him, trade him, whatever, and I feel like it's another year of expecting him to be dealt, because I thought he was going to be dealt this year. I thought he was going to be dealt last year, and you look at all these guys, like you said, Gambrell, Suomela. Honestly, I think Rourke Chartier is the first guy who gets called up if there's an injury, and you've got three, centers who for sure could probably center that fourth line, and if they take the right steps that they need to take in training camp and in their summer training, could probably play that 3C. And then, like I said, if Chris Tierney can, show he's worth his contract, or if he's even better than his contract dictates, then I will take back everything I said. But you just don't want it to get to a point where guys making a third of what he's making are better than him.
Oh, exactly. And I completely agree. I mean, I think that, with, kind of capping off on this, what was this Sharks? The Sharks had money, but they didn't have a whole lot else. I mean, we could see like, players that they could have targeted, like a Ryan O'Reilly, who I thought that, St. Louis did really well in that trade.
See, I think Buffalo did really well in that trade.
I think I don't know. I feel like they both did pretty good, but I mean, it was a good hockey trade. But the Sharks, like with their asset situation, they weren't really in a position, of strength to get into, I think, a trade market for some of these guys and some of the other guys that were free agents. I mean, it's like, oh, we didn't get John Tavares. All right, so let's go throw some money at Tyler Bozak. Like there was no, but you know what I mean? Like there was no other, like everyone's like, well, where was plan B? Where was plan B? I mean, the drop off in the free agency from John Tavares to whatever else was out there. I mean, Stastny went pretty quick. I mean, sort of like, what are you going to do? You're going to bring in Tyler Bozak to not be John Tavares? I understand people being frustrated that, that we missed out on Tavares, and, it sucks to see the rest. And apparently the rest of the NHL is completely, and we'll get to this later, has completely forgotten about the Sharks because they didn't get Tavares. So apparently, like, the Sharks are not in the Pacific Division anymore, according to pretty much all hockey media right now. And I don't understand it, but like, I don't know. I don't think that I don't think that making a move just to make a move would have made the Sharks particularly better.
No, I agree with you there. And that's what one of the things I'm glad Doug Wilson did this summer was not do that. You know what I mean? Like, too many times have we seen where, a team misses out on the big fish, and then panic mode sets in, and they're like, well, we anticipated getting a guy in that position, so we just need to sign whomever is available. And Kevin's bringing up that one summer we got John Scott too, but even if you break it down even further, the Sharks were the runner-up to get Matt Niskanen. Yep. And when they missed out on him, they circled back and re-signed Scott Hannon. Now Scott Hannon's obviously is a Sharks legend, and I think his first tenure in Teal was amazing, but as we all know, his final season in Teal was very forgettable.
Right. I mean, that kind of like goes back to the whole idea. It's like, oh, well, we didn't get this really awesome player at this position, so let's just sign somebody. And I don't mean to pick on Tyler Bozak. Tyler Bozak's an okay player, but
I don't know. Think about it like this though. Tyler Bozak, like, picture giving Chris Tierney a $5 million AAV, and there's, your Tyler Bozak comparable. Like, is that what you really want?
No. Rob saying it's Leafs, Lightning, the rest of the garbage in the Atlantic. I think you are missing a team called the Boston Bruins, Mr. Rob.
I think you're also missing. I mean, I'm not saying Buffalo is a darling, but I don't think they're garbage, at least anymore.
We'll see what they do, but I mean, like, I think that if you're looking at, teams that would threaten in a division, I think, leaving the Bruins out of the conversation Atlantic would be a big mistake. Much like let's talk about this, because it seems like everything I read lately, it's like, man, I don't know, like is hockey media stuck in 2010? Because like the Sharks get so little in the way of chit chat lately. It seems like they're just there, and it's almost like they've been forgotten. It's like right now, it's like the Kings and the Ducks are apparently going to be good next year. Like I okay, I guess. I mean, look, the Kings. I know the Kings got Kovalchuk, but I don't know. I'm not sold that Kovalchuk's going to make that big of an impact. I think the Ducks are a better team than they were last year.
Yep.
But
I agree with you.
But I mean, like, Corey Perry hasn't been Corey Perry in like what, 3 years now? Like, maybe it's time to just accept that Corey Perry is never going to be Corey Perry again.
Yeah, I mean, the problem I had with that article is that, you know, the title and the content, you know, said, or at least implied, that LA and Anaheim, you know, will do better. Now,
Right.
Could they do better? Absolutely. Like you said, Anaheim is better than their playoff record last year indicated. And, you know, you go back to one of our summer podcasts last year, and I said, you know, that Anaheim was my pick to make the Western Conference Final, and that was even before they got Adam Henrique. So, you know, I still think there's something interesting to look at with that team. I mean, even with the loss of Shea Theodore and Sammy Vatanen, they've still got a very, very good defensive core. And you add in Adam Henrique, who got re-signed. You know, Getzlaf is still Ryan Getzlaf, and Ricard Raquel only seems to get better every year. And you've got guys like Kasha and Richie coming in. So Ducks absolutely could you know, bounce back next year, and I would not be surprised one bit. But the LA Kings, I mean, they're decent, but they're not the benchmark. And you know, you know, okay, so they get Kovalchuk, which I'm a fan of Kovalchuk, and you know, if you know, if we're looking at the LA Kings from the playoffs this past year, if they had Kovalchuk then, you know, they probably win that series against Vegas, because defense and goaltending was locked down. But you know, at the same time, with how locked down it was, you know, you have to imagine that there's going to be a little bit of regression. And you know, Drew Doughty is a year older, and we know how much LA taxes, you know, Drew Doughty with how much they deploy him out there. So I don't think they will be better, or, you know, are the quote unquote pick for the division. I think they could be better, but I still think there's better teams ahead of them. I mean, San Jose, I still think is better. Arizona, I feel like I've been saying it for years, but Arizona's on the upswing. I feel like Calgary is also another piece that's like right there, but then they're not, but then they are. And then, you know, same thing with Edmonton. Edmonton, I think, is a mystery as well.
Yeah, like Anaheim, I can see it, because like you said, you know, you got a decent defense core there. They have forwards. It's not like you know, with Corey Perry not being Corey. I mean, Corey Perry's eating a lot of money for doing very little, but you have probably one of the, you know, I'm not a huge Sean Gibson guy, but I mean, the numbers are there.
I disagree with you. I think John Gibson is like, he's in that Vasilevsky, Connor Hellebuyck,
numbers
Matt
are
Murray.
there.
Like,
as much as I, for some reason, don't like him, like the numbers are there, and I'm wrong. And I don't know why I don't like him. But
and you know what? They got him on a very nice extension too. And you know, I saw, you know, I got to see him play live, and like when I say I got to see him, like I was like 4 rows behind his net, and that guy made some stupid, crazy saves, you know. And I understand why you may feel that way about him. He's definitely had troubles with injuries and consistency, especially when Frederik Andersen was there. But I think the Ducks, again, I'm not saying they're winning the division or they're even getting past the first round next year, but I think they have better chances at swinging back on the positive side than LA does. I don't see how they're both A, in the same conversation, and B, both right on the cusp. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think that's, you know, I think that's what I was trying to say is like, I don't like, I can make an argument for the Ducks. I can't for the Kings. It's not just because I'm a Sharks fan and I hate the Kings, because I hate the Ducks too. You know, but I think I spent like the entire last year waiting for the Ducks to just be the Ducks again. You know, it was like, okay, guys, the Ducks, you know, they're coming around. They're going to do it again. They're going to, you know, kind of like, you know, LA used to do. They come on at the end and then steal the division.
And with how injured their team was, and they were still winning games, like there was no reason to believe that they were going to be swept in the first round, you know?
No.
And then something just happened, you know? Like, I don't know. It's and thing is, in that same token, like I could totally see the Pacific shake out next year. You know, say Anaheim and LA are in top 3 spots and the Sharks in the wild card. I could see that happening, but it's less likely than, you know, it's less likely than, you know, one of them winning the division. You know what I mean? Like, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at the Pacific Division. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend the Pacific Division is the meat grinder it once was. It isn't. So I mean, yeah, you could make an argument for, you know, you can make an argument for LA. I think there's a good argument to be made for Anaheim. I can't imagine how like the Sharks just kind of like, I mean, I'm fine, but you know, be under the radar, be awesome. Like but it amazes me though when you know you have like NHL Network going through the division. Like I understand where, you know, obviously when you're looking at like players, like individual players, yeah, obviously you're gonna bring up Edmonton because Edmonton has Connor McDavid. I don't understand how like the Sharks don't even get a mention, considering they're really not all that different from last year. I mean, all they did was subtract guys who really didn't play.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, there's, you talk about reason to believe Anaheim and LA could win the division. Sharks could easily do that. I mean,
oh yeah.
Is Vegas going to win the division again? I would be very surprised if they did. And, you know, maybe the only other contender would be the Calgary Flames, considering how much better they actually got. But other than that, all the teams in the Pacific are more... Mike Smith.
Mike Smith's like 100 years old now, though.
He is 100 years old, but he's still, you know, he still does really well. You know, he's a really good goalie considering, you know, how old he is and how he seemingly has, like, you know, how many times has he, you know, played his last game as a starter, and then here he comes with like a 50 save shutout. You know what I mean?
I know. I feel like, you know, Mike Smith reminds me a lot of, I'm trying to remember who it was. Dwayne Rollinson. Oh my God, yeah. You know, but like when that train ended though, like when that train went off the track, boy, did it go off the track really badly. And I can't help but wonder, like, you know, because I don't think there's gonna be this light regression for Mike Smith. Like Mike Smith's gonna fall off the face of the planet. I don't think there's gonna be this, you know, little decline. I think it's going to be just like a sheer cliff when it happens. Right.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, still one of the best decors in the league, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're a little worse now because you lose Dougie Hamilton, but, you know, and Drew Weber is going to agree with me here. Noah Hannafin is, you know, very well on his way to being something special, you know, in this league. And, you know, like I said, for how, you know, each move that Calgary did, they were very, you know, they didn't, you know, shatter the earth. You know, okay, you get Noah Hannafin, who was on the outs. Okay, you're curious to see where that goes. Same thing with Elias Lindholm. Couldn't agree to terms with Carolina. You get him when he's on the outs. You're curious to see where that goes. But both of those guys are still very young, very decent players, a lot of room to grow. And then, you know, you get the real deal, you know, who's good for 20 goals minimum. And, you know, I think one of Calgary's problems, yes, their defense, like in terms of stopping pucks, but, you know, there's still a lot of intrigue on that defense and that goaltending. I would not be surprised if they end up being, you know, one of the teams that, you know, lets in the least amount of goals, and then you add in more goal scoring. I mean, you know, if the chips fall the right way, Calgary could be right back into things.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely like, yeah, the Pacific's probably more wide open than I think it's ever been this year, because I think, you know, I don't think that, I Vegas isn't going to just steamroll the division again. Like I have a hard time seeing that happen. You know, I think the Sharks are good, but the Sharks were good last year. I don't think I think when you look at the, you know, the Sharks are a good team. They're like a good collective unit. I don't think there's anything spectacular about the Sharks. They're just good. And I feel like Vegas could very much be in that same boat. They're just good. There's nothing spectacular about them. It's going to be interesting, you know. Edmonton's going to be interesting this year because you would think that they would bounce back, but then losing Sekera to injury now again, man, I mean, like that is a kick in the teeth because you just can't go and just replace the Sekera. You can't just, you know, find a new one. I know they picked up a guy to play some minutes for them, but you can't replace Sekera, and expecting anybody that you would get at this time of the year without giving up serious assets to come in and, you know, play some minutes. I mean, that's just rough for them. And I mean, that was pretty much their undoing last year, was just their defense. I mean, they played Klefbom into the ground, and what's Oscar Klefbom going to look like this year? Oscar Klefbom's a guy that they, you know, were trying to show off for a trade while he was playing on one leg. I don't know what's going on in Edmonton. It's crazy in Edmonton.
And that's the sucky thing too, is like, well, sucky if you're an Oilers fan, but you know, with the type of injury that Sekera has, you know, that's a 6-month minimum recovery, and even then, you're not getting full strength for at least 9 to 12 months. So, any hopes of Sekera playing during the season, unless he is part of like the Super Soldier Serum program and we don't know about it, he's not coming back. And you know, there's no reason to think that Klefbom won't bounce back, because I think Klefbom doesn't get talked about nearly as much as he probably should. And I mean, you know, Adam Larson is he's the easy one to pick on because he was traded for Taylor Hall, but Adam Larson is not the worst defenseman either. And you know, you're going to see a full season with Ethan Bear, and I think Edmonton is in the same, not to a lesser degree, but I believe Edmonton's in the same boat as Calgary, where if the chips fall their way, they could be right back in the conversation for a playoff spot.
Well, right. I mean, any team with Connor McDavid has a chance to win some hockey games. Like, this is all there is to it. I mean, I know that our audience doesn't always love McDavid as much as I do, but I mean, the kid's going to score probably, you know, I won't be shocked if the kid gets near 50 goals this year.
Our friend Trin Potrat seems to think he's going to hit 121 points, which is unbelievable.
Wow. It's a lot of, like, is it the 80s again? I don't know. Man. Wow.
I mean, you know what though? I would be, well, I don't know, because he hit 100 2 years ago, and I remember, you know, me being me, I was like, well, he's never going to hit 100 again. Look at that stupid contract. And then he gets 100 and he gets 107 this past year. So I'm not commenting on that in a negative fashion.
No.
But I mean, you know what? Anything is possible. Like, you know, McDavid too, he put up 107 points playing with, you know, some guys who were struggling. I mean, aside from Nugent Hopkins, who had a career year, playing left wing, no less, which is very interesting. But I mean, if Lucic can get back rolling, you know, if the power play can get rolling, and who knows, you've got Jesse Puljujarvi, you've got Kaylor Yamamoto, both theoretically coming into the NHL full time this coming year. I mean, I think the sky is the limit for McDavid. So I'll say this, Trin Potrats, if you're listening, if he gets past 107 points, then you and I are going to have a conversation about a, you know, prize for your statement. Because
yeah, just to go in the chat here quickly. Yeah, Ryan Merkley is going to be in Guelph next year, guys. He's not coming to the A, or definitely not coming to the N. There's a lot that needs to be cleaned up in his game. The kid's got talent, but Ryan Merkley's 2-3 years out before even seeing it possibly in the NHL.
And that's going to be a very interesting situation when it shakes out, because the year, or the summer that Dylan and Braun become UFAs precedes the first season that Merkley is eligible for the AHL. So depending on these next 2 years go, I mean, it's anybody's guess how, things will shake out. And I think, you said 2 to 3 years. I think that's the perfect, the perfect timeline for him. And we could see like turnover on that decor sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, getting back to what we were talking about though, with Edmonton, I just want to clean it up in the chat there. With Edmonton is that, the thing that they need to do though is they need Draisaitl to be Draisaitl without McDavid. Like they need to stretch their depth out because they spend a lot of money. I mean, and that Lucic contract is killing them. So if they can't get Draisaitl to be Draisaitl without being on McDavid's wing, I mean that's a problem. Yeah, and it's easy. And I think for a coach like Todd McLellan, who I think his seat's going to be warm this year. I'm not saying he's going to get fired, but if Edmonton falls out of the gate like their first 20 games and they're and they win 5 of their first 20, Todd McLellan could easily be out the door there. But I think that's the thing, right? Like his coaches, coach to keep coaching, and they need, and if things start going wrong, like if Todd McLellan is just going to continue playing Draisaitl with McDavid, as that kind of oh shit button, that's going to be that's going to be a problem with them, because I think if Edmonton's going to be successful, that it's like in the chat, I mean, they need that 1-2 punch. They need the Crosby Malkin. They, like if you look at the successful teams in the league, they all have a 1-2, maybe even a 3 punch, at least a 1-2 though. And I'd argue most have a 1-2-3 punch down the middle.
I'll tell you this. If I'm Peter Chiarelli, I'm reconsidering my decision to trade Jordan Eberle for nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you get Ryan Strome, who, okay, a decent third line center, but Jordan Eberle is the same kind of guy as like a James Neal. People sour on him, and then he will get you 20 goals. I mean, look at the Islanders. I feel like the Islanders are the laughingstock of the league for many reasons, but
that would be the Ottawa Senators.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, the Islanders were one of the highest scoring teams this year, and
yes.
A huge part of that is Jordan Eberle, and playing what if and what could have been. It's not the best game to play when you're talking about hockey, but I think if you say you don't make that trade, say you hold on to Jordan Eberle, I think it would force Todd McLellan to not hit that oh shit button like you're talking about, because you won't need to put McDavid and Draisaitl together because he'll have Eberle. And I mean, truthfully, I'm a little surprised that didn't work out better when you consider McDavid just loves passing the puck to guys, and Eberle can just rip them. You know what I mean? So it's very weird to me how that didn't work out.
Forget Jordan Eberle. I mean, there's another guy who is in New Jersey right now who just had a hell of a season too, that you would have thought would have been like the perfect trigger.
Yeah, that guy's okay. What do you win? NV whatever.
Taylor Hall guy. I guess he's pretty good. So I mean that's the big question in Edmonton for me is what is how bad is the Sekera injury going to derail this team? Because but I think the Pacific's in a place where if they can weather that, they can still do all right.
Mm-hmm.
Like the only team that I think is going to just get completely pushed around this year is Vancouver.
Yeah. Like I don't understand what they're doing there.
No, I don't understand either, because everyone's like, "Oh, this is smart. It's going to be they're just tanking for the rebuild. They're going to come back with all these prospects and don't get me wrong, like they're going to, they're going to have guys that are going to be they have some really nice pieces in their system right now." But
I feel like if they remove head from sphincter, like I feel like they could be competitive now. I mean, maybe not, like why why guys like Yo Levy, guys like Pettersson, why not try them in the NHL? You know what I mean?
I think Pettersson's definitely playing this year. I don't know what Yo Levy, but Pettersson, I can't see Pettersson not playing this year.
Oh, absolutely not. Well, I mean, with the Sedin's gone, that's a top 6 center spot that's open.
Correct. That's I don't know. The thing is with Vancouver that befuddles me is they made all these, they got all these depth guys, but they signed them to just stupid long term. Like you want stopgaps. I get it. You need stopgaps. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, but you got guys that are going to be ready before 4 years is up. Like, I don't know why I don't know. I just, Jim Benning, man, I don't know.
Well, and you know what? The fact that he signed them to 4-year deals, what that tells me is that he doesn't anticipate the team being good for another 4 years.
I just feel like but they're just on the other end. Like they're on the other side of the scorched earth, right? Like the grass is growing again in Vancouver. I don't you do this when you're before, like when you're scorching everything, that's when you sign these kind of contracts. The grass is growing in Vancouver. The scorched earth is past. The Sedins are gone. This team could be good, depending on, there's a couple of things. Like obviously their goaltending this year, I have no idea who's even playing a net for them this year. It's going to be bad.
Markstrom.
Right. Jacob Markstrom. Who I've never been a fan of. But I mean, like in 2 years, like you're already, 2 years, you could have a Thatcher Demko ready to go. You could have, right? Like, I mean, this team is just, I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking. Like, I just feel like he's sometimes GMs get in this trap where they just kind of see, this is how it worked before. But I feel like teams are turning around quicker now.
Yeah, well, exactly. And, how many, you think back some years. Wow, Jacob Markstrom won you in fantasy hockey. Must have been a real fantasy. Wow. You think about previous drafts, how many guys would make the NHL in their first season? 1,
right?
2. But now, like, especially this year, like, honestly, and anybody in the chat, if you want to at me on this, please do. I think Quinn Hughes could play in the NHL this year. I really do. Watching him.
He won't, but yeah.
Oh, he won't, but I think he could if he had to. And, watching him at, the World Junior Summer Showcase, like he was on another planet, compared to other guys. Like he was just tearing it apart there. He was playing really well. And, again, I think it's smart for Vancouver to not put their prospects in a toxic situation like that. But, eventually, you're going to get into a situation, and they're even kind of in that situation now where, you tank and you get all these sweet draft picks and prospects and whatnot. But then, here we are 4 years later, and, Virtanen has struggled. Goldobin has struggled. McCann has been traded. Like these are guys who were supposed to be part of the solution, and now they're becoming part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, but you look at the other guys coming up, though. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like you've kind of gotten past where you've kind of pushed people in, and I think that coaching change helps that too. Because the coach before Travis Green wasn't very good.
No,
and I feel like with the boy you have guys that are coming to step in now. Like, it's not like, it's before when you're talking about like when Jared McCann and Jake Virtanen had to be like it was a barren wasteland as far as like they're not in that situation anymore. They've got guys that should be threatening to make the jump. You've got your Jonathan Dollins and guys that should be threatening for spots now. Plus you've got Brock Besser, like you're in a much better shape than you were. It's not like that's the thing I don't understand with the way they've done their deals is just like your guys are starting to come in and look at. I understand you don't want to be Edmonton and just be like, here's your spot. I understand you want guys to push it, but at the same time, signing guys to 4-year deals starting this year doesn't. You're how are you going to push them out if you can't move them?
Well, and that's why I say like signing them to 4-year deals tells me that he doesn't see the team as being a playoff contender in 4 years. You know what I mean?
Right. Which I think is just
I think it's asinine is what it is.
Yeah, I think it is. Like, again, it's kind of a free-for-all. One team that seems to have gotten better, but I feel like we say this every summer. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. I'm not doing it. Can't do it again. Can't do it again.
Come on, we have
Coyotes.
We have jackets. Join us.
Join us. I can't do it again. This team is supposed to make the jump, and I mean, I understand like this team was one of the best teams at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, when there's nothing on the line, it gets easier to play good hockey, no?
Fair point. I think you're right. Because they were one of the best teams to finish the season. And
absolutely.
I think if they can play like that in the beginning of the season, then it's a whole different story. I mean, Antti Ranta had stupid numbers. Like,
yeah,
his final 20 starts, and I think he let in more than 2 goals like twice.
Right.
Like that's ridiculous. And if they can get that rolling in the beginning of the season, it's like I said about Calgary and Edmonton and even the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah.
If the chips fall their way, it's there for the taking. And I think, like, the reason why the Pacific is so competitive is because everybody in it is just kind of, So
they're just kind of there, right?
Yeah.
Like it's there for there's no like, and that's the thing with the Pacific. I feel like there's a lot of good teams, but there's no great teams.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Like, and that, and I include the Sharks in that because I think the Sharks are a good team. I don't think they're a great team. I don't think I don't think the Sharks stack up very well next to the Tampa Bays of the world, obviously.
Oh, no.
Right? But there's a bunch of good teams, and you don't have to be, I mean, if anything, we've learned anything, in this stupid league is you don't have to be the greatest team to do well. And we've seen, teams are supposed to be great completely fall apart. I still think you have to be a great team to win the cup, though. I think that, for all the talk of parity, I mean, if you look at the last teams that have won the cup, I mean, how many teams have won? It's been a handful of teams. So for all the talk of parity, I think that the talk of parity is a little overblown in the NHL, because I think if you look at just even the last decade alone, all those teams that won the cup were really good. This isn't the early 2000s where the Carolinas of the world were winning Stanley Cups. Like, those days are gone.
No, I feel you. Like, I feel like to a certain degree there is parity, but it's kind of like it's not where people say it. Like, you have your top teams. You've got Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, Washington, Nashville. And I think where parity comes into play is when you look at those middle of the pack people and it's like, well, there's a different 8th seed every year. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's because you think about teams who missed the playoffs last year that probably could have made it. Florida, Calgary.
Yeah.
Who am I thinking of? I think even Dallas, like you look at all these teams and Arizona who could have made the playoffs, but they didn't. And I think where the parity comes into play is it's those guys in the middle of the pack. Where, like, you've got your guys who are the Kings on top. No reference to the team in LA. You have your top guys, and you've got your garbage guys, and then you've got just a melting pot of teams in the middle who, like, could be the 8th seed or they could be the 12th seed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like, and I completely agree with that. I mean, you have your garbage teams, you have your top tier teams, but I mean, the rest, like, there's like 5 teams on top, 5 teams that are awful, and then the other 21 teams are just kind of interchangeable.
Mm-hmm, exactly, and that's where I think the word parity, like, I think parity is used in a way to be like, well, anybody could win the Stanley Cup, which to a certain degree is true, but I think in reality,
I don't think so. I think you can't even, like, I know that's the thing. It's like, oh, you have to do, once you make it, anything happen. But I mean, you look, I don't see, when I look at the past winners from the past decade, and a decade I think is a good measuring stick of time,
mm-hmm.
None of those cup winners are surprising.
Well, I think what would be the better thing to look at would be, since those points in time, how did the runner-ups fare?
Mm-hmm.
Because I can think, I mean, obviously Pittsburgh and Detroit playing back-to-back, that's probably never going to happen again in the salary cap era. And
Probably not.
And then, I mean, you look at the team, like Chicago's first cup was against Philadelphia, who clinched in the last day of the regular season.
Yep.
You know, yeah, I mean, you know, New Jersey Devils in 2012 were at best, but so were the LA Kings. Like that season, the LA Kings for many stretches couldn't buy a win. And
but that was their thing though. They just they stacked all season, and then they were like, okay, guys, put the golf clubs away. It's April.
And I think like, you know, when it's the same kind of thing, like there is truth to the, you know, get there and anything can happen. But I think that only gets you as far as being the runner up. I mean, even the Sharks are in that conversation. You know, the Sharks that season, they went to the Stanley Cup final. The Sharks were 17-17-1 at one point. Like, yeah, you know, so the argument is made that you just get there and then anything can happen. But what you're saying, you know, the top guys are the top guys, and nobody should be surprised by it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean and say like, oh, this season's over before it's like, don't get me wrong. Look, I'm not, no, we
did that last year.
Right. I'm not trying to say like, you know, the season's over before it starts or anything. I mean, look at, yeah, to a point, anything can happen, but I think that there's just an element of this talk of parity, but when it comes to winning championships, it's a lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and
it's a lie. Yes.
Well, and
any group of, you know, a bunch of teams that, you know, can make the playoffs. I agree there. I think any number of teams could make the playoffs. Like you brought up teams that just missed, you know, I think Florida being a great example of that. You know, I think Florida missed by what, a point?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I feel like
even the Islanders too. I don't mean to cut you off, but like they couldn't stop a puck to save their lives, but they were one of the highest scoring teams in the league. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I'm not.
The NHL's in a weird place. Like I feel like it's like
in a weird place.
Like I don't know if you've ever seen. I don't know if you've ever seen Thor Ragnarok, but it's like you have your champion, and then it's like, okay, eeny, meeny, miny, you are going to play for the Stanley Cup this year, and and then they just get squashed.
Oh man, that's great. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not trying to crap on the Sharks' chance. I think all I'm trying to say is like, it wouldn't surprise me this year, and I think where I was trying to go with this, to see any team, you know, do well in the Pacific. I just don't know if that's going to translate when it comes time to play against the rest of the league.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and that's kind of depending on what side of the coin you look at, it's either the nice thing or the sucky thing about the first two rounds of the playoffs being into your division is you can be like the Winnipeg Jets and just roll everybody in your division, and then you have to play the Golden Knights in the Western Conference Final, and you win once, you know?
Yeah.
And again, Vegas, anomaly, whatever, but you know, the point still stands. Until you get to the third round, I don't think your record means anything, you know?
Yeah, like I agree.
No, it's easy. There's 7 teams or 7 other teams in your division, and you play them, you know, 5 times or 4 times a year, sometimes 3. Like it's easy to get, you know, almost 30 win, you know, a decent record in 30 games. But then, you know, you only play all the other teams in the league twice, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, I'm glad you touched on the Golden Knights, because I'm really curious to see. I think if there's a team that fascinates me more than any other team this year, it's probably the Golden Knights, because I feel like a lot of what's being said about the Golden Knights right now is kind of silly. You know, this idea that, oh, well, everything just fell perfectly for them last year. They played with the 4th string goaltender last year. That's not everything going well. Like, you know, this idea that this team faced no adversity is just, to me, it's baffling that it gets said, especially by people who are supposed to like do this for a living, like watch this game for a living. Like this is a team that played with their 4th string goalie for a quarter of the season and still managed to, you know, to make it through. It wasn't like this team, maybe once they got to the playoffs, things kind of, you know, maybe fell their way a little bit, but I mean, it wasn't like this. I don't know. I'm curious to see what they do for an encore, because obviously I think William Karlsson's good. Do I think he's going to be as good as he was last year? No. You want to talk about, everyone was like talking about how George McPhee was such a genius after the expansion draft. I mean, after the summer, it's funny how that works, like how quickly the tide can change over a season. Because I think he had a really good expansion draft, but like that Marc-Andre Fleury contract is terrifying.
Well, and with how much he had already declined in his last few years in Pittsburgh, like
right.
How many between their 09 Cup win and their 16 Cup win, like how many playoff series did he lose the net in? Like,
yeah,
I want to say at least half.
Yeah. Like, and look, I think that Marc-Andre Fleury, like, look, I'm not saying he's a terrible goalie. I think this revision of how he's suddenly the best goalie in the Pacific is completely asinine to me. He had a good season. Can he do it again? I don't know, but I mean, he's a good goalie. Like, he whatever he's done, because there was a point where I agree, like mentally he just wasn't there. He lost his team series that they should have won, almost single-handedly. Lost his team series that they should have won. And it's funny how, like, again, hockey fans, we're dumb. We say stupid things when our team isn't doing well. And there was like kind of this revisionist history on Matt Murray. Like, Matt Murray won you 2 Stanley Cups. Yes, without Marc-Andre Fleury playing against Washington the year before last, maybe they don't win that second Stanley Cup. But like, Matt Murray was still the guy that did it.
Right.
After, Marc-Andre Fleury crapped the bed more often than not. But like, I don't know. I just like that contract. I don't get that, especially at his age too. Like, that's just, it makes no sense. I guess, it just shows that like a GM can be a genius and an idiot all at the same time.
Hello, Jim Benning. Paging Jim Benning.
Well, I mean, because you make it. It's funny because, look at when the Oilers went and they went to the second round of the playoffs, Peter Chiarelli was a genius.
Right.
But, when things go bad, obviously you're no longer a genius. And I think it's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see what Vegas does for Nuncourt because, again, I still think, they lost some pieces, but I still think this team has enough pieces to be good. I don't think they're, again, like the rest of the Pacific, they're not a great team. Wouldn't even argue they're an elite team. I don't think there's an elite team in the Pacific Division, to be completely honest. But they're good enough to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and that's kind of goes back to what we were saying about the Pacific as a whole, where, every team, except for Vancouver, has something about them that makes them an intriguing team to look at in terms of the playoff race. And, I would be surprised. Honestly, I'd be surprised if Vegas got past the second round this coming season, but they're not going to be bad either. I mean, okay, they lose, the real deal. They lose, David Perron, who I'm not a fan of, but put up good numbers this year.
But I mean, when the games mattered, David Perron was fighting with Thomas Tatar for ice.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, they did, Vegas did a good job of bringing in, some guys to replace them. But I just, I hate to even allow this to come out of my mouth, but I just don't think that magic is going to be there. I mean, your fourth line center is not going to score at a 50-point pace this year. I'm sorry to let you know.
Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm curious to see. Like, again, I don't think they're going to be bad. I don't think they're going to be great. But then, of course, that means they're going to completely steamroll the division again, probably, because why not? I don't know. I mean, I don't think that you're going to, like, some of the things George McPhee did this summer, you're not going to see this season. But, man, this team's going to be in some trouble down the road because Marc-Andre Fleury not getting any younger. Not at all.
No, and like we said, he's already in the past shown signs of, single-handedly losing series. So it's, I don't know. I mean, it's a 3-year contract, so at least in that respect, it's not too bad. But it's, 3 years after this year, so 4 years total. And I don't know, depending on how he, how his game goes the next couple of years, he very much could be the next goalie who's just exploited game in, game out. You know what I mean?
Or he could be Mark Smith.
Yeah.
Who knows? Goalies are voodoo. Vince brought up another good point. I mean, this is still a team though that has, the Tatar trade sticks out like a sore thumb, but this is a team that still has some nice pieces in the pipeline too that could, fight for spots. So
and draft picks.
And they do have a ton of draft picks still. So it'll be interesting to see what the Knights do going forward. I think this year again, I don't think that they're gonna plummet. They might come back to earth a little. I don't think they're gonna like plummet to the bottom of the division, but they could, because again, this division is going to just be, it's going to be crazy. Because again, you just need one of these teams to kind of come around and, and the status quo might not be good enough. A team like Arizona or Edmonton picks up more points, and maybe, a team like the Kings, they can continue playing the way they are, and that's just not good enough for a playoff spot suddenly. Could be the same for the Sharks, could be the same for the Ducks, could be this, like, it's I don't know. I'm looking forward to this year, because I think this year, especially in our division, I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. Because I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I could go through other divisions and say, yeah, this team is probably going to be awesome, and these teams are going to suck. The Pacific, other than Vancouver, I think Vancouver's the only team that I would count out.
Well, and how many years were there, or how many years was it where, we could say, okay, well, California, and then somebody else squeaks in, and then there was that year where it's like, well, I think Alberta is going to have something to say about it. But now this year, like you said, it's really anybody's guess.
It's anybody's guess, and it's gonna be interesting. So I think there's really, I don't know, is there another division like this in hockey? I don't think so. Like, I feel like the Atlantic is a teeter-totter. It's just it's really top heavy, and then the rest, I mean, there could be some teams in the Atlantic that do okay. Like, I think Buffalo could do some interesting things, but I don't foresee, when you look at the Tampa Bays, the Torontos, the Bostons, like that's a tough hill to climb.
See, I think the Atlantic was like that, where it was just, you had like, I feel like in the Atlantic, like the teams who were kind of like in the middle, I think have either gotten better or gotten worse. Like, I think Buffalo is better. Detroit is obviously worse. Ottawa is obviously worse. Florida, Florida's still kind of
there.
Jury's still out. But I mean, and even the Metro, same kind of thing as the Metro. I mean, all these teams who were kind of in the middle of the pack have either gotten worse or better. I mean, you look at the Rangers. I don't know what the hell the Rangers are doing.
I have no idea what the Rangers are this year. No idea.
Like, and that's what, like, that's the thing, like, that confuses me even more is, okay, so, they hold on, Matt Zuccarello, who's 30, they hold on to him. He's part of the solution. But JT Miller, who's 25 and getting better, is somehow part of the problem. Like, I don't understand that,
No, I don't know what the Rangers are. I think, I don't even know what the Islanders are.
The Islanders are in peril.
Are they though? Like, I don't know.
Leo Komarov. Matt
I know losing Tavares is a kick in the junk, but like, that's just, to me, I mean, that's just such a big opportunity for Matt Barzal now.
Yeah. And
what does he do with that? And that's the thing with the Islanders is, like, what does Matt Barzal do next year? Does he have a sophomore slump, or is this a guy who's going to come in with the opportunity to fill in Tavares' shoes? And I'm not saying Matt Barzal is John Tavares, but Matt Barzal's really fucking good.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Matt Barzal was playing with Jordan Eberle and, Anthony Beauvillier, who are not awful players, but you put him with Anders Lee, who is good for 40 goals now, and right. Josh Bailey, who broke through. Like, sky's the limit for Matt Barzal. And, I think in terms of your second line center, going from Matt Barzal to Frans Nielsen is not Frans Nielsen. Who am I thinking of? Valtteri Filppula is a major step down. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, if the Islanders can get a second line center, if they can get a defenseman, if they can get some good games from Rob Leonard, same kind of thing. I think they're right back in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, New Jersey is going to be an interesting team this year to see because again, New Jersey. I mean, to me, New Jersey came out of nowhere.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what they are next year.
Kind of solely on the shoulders of Taylor Hall too.
Right. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do next year. I don't think that, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Devils kind of take a little tumble.
Yeah, I mean, you're hoping for a step forward from Nico Hischier and more from your depth guys, but I mean,
Zacha too. I think they need more from Pavel Zacha.
They really do need more from Pavel Zacha, and they're gonna, Kyle Palmieri is gonna be good for them. Will Butcher on the back end will be good for them, but I mean, they brought in, at the deadline last year, they brought in Maroon and Grabner, and it didn't really do anything for them. And, I think that kind of is indicative of where their team is going is you get reinforcements and it doesn't help. So when you lose those reinforcements and you don't replace them, like, what does that say about your team?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look at like the Metro. I mean, the Metro, obviously, I think the power is going to be still with your, the Penguins, the Capitals, Blue Jackets.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is you talk about, you have your top guys and your crap guys. Like, how long has Columbus been a top guy, quote unquote, and they just can't get it done? Like, can't even get past the first round. It's, in some respect, it's tough. You know what I mean? Like, to be so good.
Look at some of those first round opponents.
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh, Washington, like they literally ran into the two cup winners.
Right. I mean, it's really, Columbus. Yeah, I mean, Columbus, I think Columbus, if anyone has been victimized by the divisional, and I am totally pro divisional format. I know I'm in the minority on that, but man, if there's a team that must go into like the GM meeting saying we got to change this, God, it's got to be Columbus.
Yeah, and I mean, Columbus is, I don't know what Columbus is, because on paper that team should be rolling, but there's whether they can't, they let in a timely goal or the goal scoring dries up the wrong time. But I don't know. I don't know. I just think they have too many, like on Columbus, they've got too many guys who show up and then disappear. I mean, you look at Nick Foligno, 70 points, all-star, the following year, he's barely okay. And then, 2 years ago, he's back to being, an all-star caliber player. And then last year, it's another drop-off. It's like, I would like some consistency. And then, if they lose Artemi Panarin, like, he's their guy, Like, I know normally your power play quarterback is a defenseman, but Artemi Panarin quarterback's their power play from the left wing,
And that's it, right? And then Bobrovsky's got to do something in the playoffs at some point.
Yeah,
like he's to me like Bobrovsky. And maybe I'm not just trying to pick on Russians though, but to me like Bobrovsky reminds me a lot of Semyon Varlamov, where he can just have outstanding regular seasons where he just puts the team on his back and drags them to the playoffs, but then playoffs come in, where are they?
Right. Well, and that's been a conversation topic for a while too. For how many years was there the Columbus Bobrovsky and then the Team Russia Bobrovsky? Yeah. And the Team Russia Bobrovsky finally made his way to Columbus the last 2 years, but like you said, come playoff time and he's average at best. And I mean, okay, like two Vezina trophies, and that's nice, but Vezina trophies aren't Stanley Cups.
The other team that's really interesting too, in the Metro is going to be Carolina.
Yeah, right.
Carolina, like I don't know if I've ever seen an owner drop TNT into a team that's like just like. It's like they're climbing the mountain, and then the owner just was like, I'm just going to put TNT on the top and just blow the mountain up. Like, I don't even know what Carolina is going to be next year. And I think that would be a concern for me also with Calgary too, is, Carolina is this team that, the Metro is not a joke division by any stretch, but like, you would think that Carolina should have been able to get over that hump a little bit, and they just can't. They never could. And now I don't know where they are because, like, I just feel like the owner's just taking a chainsaw to that team.
See, I think, though, like, for how much has been undone there, I mean, Skinner's obviously gone, and, I was kind of expecting Justin Falk to be gone, but he's not. But, you look like, Teravainen and Aho both had, really good years, and you bring in Doug Hamilton, who's probably one of the most underrated defensemen in the league. And, you've got, Victor Rask, who I like as a player. I mean, you've got pieces. And I think if I'm Columbus, I'm seeing what kind of superstar forward, or at least above average forward, I can get for Justin Falk, considering how stupid their defense already is.
Oh, but for sure.
But I think at the end of the day, what it boils down to for Columbus is, they need to get their goaltending. Yes, Carolina, sorry. They need to get their goaltending under control.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what, like, that's the thing. I don't know what Carolina is because, and again, like, that's why I kind of, like, scratch my head at Calgary a little bit too, because you just brought in, I mean, Bill Peters, you bring in from Carolina. Again, like, this is Calgary's a good team. But I'm just curious, like, if this is the right guy, considering, like, I'm not saying Bill Peters was the problem in Carolina, but Carolina should have been better than they were, period.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that falls, like Calgary and Pittsburgh of the past, I think that falls solely on their goaltending. I mean,
oh yeah, Scott Darling was not good.
Scott Darling had a year to forget this year, and I think, Scott Darling will bounce back now that he's, the 1B or the backup, and you've got Peter Mrazek, who I like as a goalie, and I think he'll come in and I think he'll play some good games for them. So, you have
a tandem, and I don't think a tandem will win you a Stanley Cup, but a tandem can get you there.
It'll win you some games.
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree. I'm trying to think of anyone else. Carolina. Yeah, I mean, the Atlantic, going back to the Atlantic for a second, I mean, Ottawa, what the? Wow. Just, I don't even know, like, because I think that the question that I wanted to end with, and I'm going to ask it now, and I think Ottawa's probably the answer here, is like, how did I word this? What was the biggest story of the summer that happened, but what was something, that you expected to happen and didn't? And I think the thing that for me is that Erik Karlsson's still in Ottawa.
Well, yeah. Remember 6 weeks ago when Erik Karlsson was on his way to Tampa Bay?
Right. Yeah, it was done.
Yeah, done deal. 8-5. And now, like you've heard the term, tire fire, dumpster fire. Ottawa's a landfill fire. And,
it is.
And I just, good on Mark Stone for, wanting to re-sign and not just staying home. But you talk about teams that need to turn it around fast. Ottawa needs to turn it around fast because their three best players, Stone, Karlsson, and Duchesne, are all UFA next summer. And if they go, then Ottawa is going to be hurting.
It's like, it's funny though, because like the salary cap is supposed to, it's supposed to help everybody.
Yeah.
I don't you still have to, people still have to want to play for you. And at this point, I wouldn't want, if I am a hockey player, which I'm not, and, and I have the luxury of picking what team I get to go to, or at least seeing who's going to offer me a contract. I wouldn't be signing a contract with Ottawa until October 1st. When no other contracts come in and I need to play somewhere. I can't. I don't even know how you fix it. I think new ownership would fix it.
I just think, it's a tough situation because you can't really, go to an owner and be like, hey, you suck, so why don't you just leave, because they're like, okay, you're fired, goodbye, so I almost wonder if it would be beneficial to create a position between the general manager and the owner to kind of be the middleman. But, Daniel Alfredsson left Ottawa for the second time this summer. So, it's
bizarre.
It's going to I don't know if we've ever seen a team specific lockout, but we might.
Well, we saw it in Flint a couple of years back.
Yeah, there you go.
But like Johnny Oduya on the Sens, and I'm just gonna paraphrase. I don't want to read it word for word here, but basically, like, I don't know how to describe it, but an organization like that doesn't have some sort of traditions and stability, minor stuff happens, the house of cards falls apart pretty fast. Like, how is this an NHL team? Like, this is such amateur hour stuff. Like, well, I brought up Flint. Like, at least Flint's a junior hockey team. Flint has teenagers playing for it. This is an NHL team. This is a team in the best hockey league in the world.
Right.
I don't know how this is even allowed to be a thing. Like, and I get that you can't just like, I don't know. I'm sure Gary Bettman has somewhere in the CBA where he can just like come be like, I'm taking over now and you're going away and here's some money and shut up.
Yeah.
I don't know how you fix Ottawa.
Well, like you said, short of getting a new owner, it's going to have to take some serious thick skin and some, major.
And then you have to dig out though. Like, changing an owner is just like half the battle, because I don't think changing an owner, like Erik Karlsson, I can't see Erik Karlsson wanting to stay there,
even if they got a new owner.
Damages. To me, I feel like damage done. Right? Like, who's he? with everyone? No, but think about this. Like, with everyone else who's jumped ship from Ottawa, who's he staying for?
That's true.
Other than the fans, who is he staying for?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, isn't his wife from there or something? Like, I don't know. Maybe he's doing it for her sake. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but
no. But I mean, even still, like, even with, I don't know, like,
I want to bring up
everything they've gone through. Like, maybe. I mean, home is home. Don't get me wrong, but like, I just can't imagine not wanting just a fresh start. Like, you're a generational defense. You're one of the best defensemen in the NHL, and you're gonna spend the rest of your career in a team that's going absolutely nowhere. Because Erik Karlsson might stay, but who's gonna stay with him? Is Duchesne gonna stay with him?
See, and if we're having this conversation a week ago, I would say no, but I don't know. If you've seen, what goes down in the drive-through of Tim Hortons, I mean, I don't know. Matt Duchesne seems like a company guy, so.
Well, I think you got it. If you're a Senator though and you're under contract, don't you have to do something to try and, like, if your owner is gonna throw grenades at your fan base, like, don't you have to jump in front of a couple? Like,
that's also a very good point.
Someone has to fill your building. Do you want to play in an empty building?
That's a very good point.
I mean, other than games, you don't want to be games against Toronto, the only games where your arena gets filled, and not with your fans.
Yeah, right.
And there it is, kids. How does this podcast relate to the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Wow, I did not even see that coming. Great work.
You're welcome. This has been How Does This Affect the Toronto Maple Leafs on Teal Tinted.
In other words, if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan and you want to watch them play Ottawa, just, pray to your higher power, get in touch with your local, tarot card readers, say a prayer, get your voodoo dolls, and make Ottawa lose. Really bad. Wow. That was beautiful.
That was beautiful. I thought so too. I don't know. I guess that was the other thing that I did want to end on was with Sportsnet. Obviously, Sportsnet, like, I feel bad because, like, they own half the team, but like, I feel like, look at John Tavares is good. We would have loved to have him in Teal, but defense is pretty mediocre. Like, I don't understand how John Tavares suddenly makes this team a contender. Although obviously, when you're talking to Canadian fans, you want to type them things they want to read, I guess. But
glass cannon.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, I they're gonna be good. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I tweeted this. Like, they're gonna be a good team. I just cup contender. Like, yeah, Lightning. Okay, Lightning definitely cup contender. I don't know if I would put Toronto second there though. And of course, there's no teams in the West that apparently Tampa and Toronto are just gonna play for the cup, because that happens all the time.
Right.
I don't know. I don't get it. And that's not a knock on the Leafs. I think they're gonna be good. I think that they're gonna lay waste to most of the Atlantic Division this year. But I don't know, man. That decor doesn't scare me at all.
It really does not. It's like, I mean, Morgan Riley is nice and Jake Gardiner is decent, but beyond that, I mean, Zaitsev has had a forgetful NHL career so far, and
even Gardiner, I think, like,
that's why I said Gardiner. So that's why I said he's okay. He's okay.
I think he's miscast.
Yes, and even who else? Like Ron Hainsey, like, okay, sure, he can play. That's nice, but no, you're right. I mean, you've got at least, if you're a Leafs fan and you want some solace, and we can end on this, at least, because the thing with Dallas Stars, it was score. Defense sucks. Let's leave it up to our goalie, and then the goalie sucked. But at least with Toronto, they've got a goalie who can bail them out.
That's true. Yeah. No, like I said, I think they're gonna do well. I don't know if that's a recipe for. I think it's, like I said, I think they're gonna lay waste to the Atlantic all season.
Sure.
Is that a recipe for another series against Boston? Not so sure.
Yeah, or Tampa Bay,
or like, because again, like, the divisional playoffs, man. Divisional playoffs are rough.
I don't know. You want a hot take to end the show? I think Buffalo's defense is better than Toronto's.
Oh, I don't know if I'd go that far, but man,
I mean, I would.
Tough. I don't know. I need to look at Buffalo again, because I feel like Buffalo's like another team where I'm like, this they're going to turn the corner finally. They're going to turn the corner finally. They're my Arizona Coyotes of the East.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, that top six is to be desired.
Yeah.
Eichel, Reinhardt, Okposo, Middlestat. They got Jeff Skinner for peanuts, and I know I'm thinking of somebody else, like, Connor Sherry, again, for peanuts. And then defense, I mean, Ristolainen is a very polarizing player. I like him. Obviously Rasmus Dahlin comes in. I think Scandala is very underrated. Same thing with Jake McCabe. I think he's a guy who's not talked about enough. And you're going to sense a theme here. It's if things go right.
Right. Which I think is, again, that's... You could repeat that for 21 teams, like I said.
Right.
All right. So thanks, everyone, for coming and listening to me and Jerk just kind of... I know we weren't really in the chat as much as we normally are. I apologize for that. Just thanks for coming and listening to me and Jerk just ramble about hockey teams for an hour and a half. Again, this is going to... The goal is to get this back on track and being a thing that you can regularly expect. So I hope that if all goes well and I don't have any issues on my end, thankfully, but we should be back next week. Maybe we'll have a little more structure of just not just listening to me and Jerk talk hockey, like you guys aren't there. But if you did enjoy the show, regardless, make sure you subscribe. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter at Teal Tinted Pod. Tweet at us, let us know. I asked a few questions. What was your biggest, maybe not news story that you thought was going to be a news story this summer? Let me know. I'd be curious to hear. Maybe we'll share some on our next show. Aside from that, Hockey Jerk, tell them where they can find you.
Well, another show. 52. It's crazy. They just seem to fly by, but yeah, we're going to try get back to being regular. And, we've said it many times, but we like you guys providing us, content. So, even, and honestly, like, it doesn't have to be anything well thought out or creative or even Sharks related, but if there's just like a general question you're concerned about, or you want us to talk about, or whatever, tweet Ian, tweet myself, tweet the show, tweet Kevin, tweet Drew. Kevin. I don't care. Yeah. tweet Drew. We need to bother Drew.
We do need to bother Drew. Actually, I did try to get him on the show tonight, but he had class. So, priorities, of course. I don't know what's wrong with this kid.
who goes to school to better themselves? I mean, that's lame.
That is lame.
But as of where you can find me on Twitter at hockey_jerk, where you will not see a whole lot of tweets because I haven't really felt like saying anything lately, but season's starting, so get used to it because you all know how much I like to tweet. It's going to come back and you might get annoyed, but you should still follow me nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. Also follow Kevin at Kevin Lacey 22. He'll be back soon, hopefully with a trophy or something that he can drink out of on the next show. I don't know how this works.
he's gonna get his day with the trophy, and he's gonna go to a city that we all collectively come up with. He's gonna throw us all a potluck. It's gonna be awesome.
Epic. When I played men's league, we never won games. We just lost all the time. So I don't know what this championship game nonsense feels like. Yeah, I don't know. So Kevin will be back. You can find me at Ian Blogs Hockey. I am. I have a little work hiatus going on right now, which is nice. So I am going to hopefully get something written again, because summer being what it was. Not only did I not show up and do my job here, I didn't really write anything all summer either. So I'm hoping to get back in the swing of things, but not so much where I've done this thing the last couple of years where I've done a lot of writing leading into the season, and then like November 1st, and I'm like, I'm done. So I'm trying to avoid that this year. I'm going to try not to just, blow it all in the month leading up to the season. I'm going to try and pace myself a little bit and see how that works out for me. Aside from that, guys, again, check us out on the web, check us out on the Twitter machine. I'm on Instagram now if you want to see pictures of my kids. I'm hoping that I'm also going to have some hockey related content on my Instagram once the OHL season ramps up again. So check that out at Ian Blogs Hockey as well. Other than that, it's just a bunch of pictures of my kids being cute and reptiles, I think. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Thanks for coming out. We will see you guys next time. Catch the replay. Tell 2 friends. You know how that works. And we will see you next week. Have a good one, gang. Goodbye.